ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive. Brought to you by Huntington Federal Savings Bank. Local then, local now. Member FDIC.
Welcome into the Thursday, January 9th edition. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Coming up this hour, we are going to get you set for Marshall and Middle Tennessee. Looking forward to that. Bill Cornwell is going to be with me later on this hour, hopefully. If not, definitely next hour, we'll have all your pregame coverage of Marshall and Middle Tennessee right here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Our phone lines this hour brought to you by Miller Lite at 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. Miller Lite, hold true, great taste, only 96 calories. It is the original light beer. Now, I'm going to confess, I am not the most versed when it comes to MLS soccer or soccer in general. I follow the Olympics a little bit more. I follow FC Cincinnati since I'm a big Cincinnati fan. So the good news comes out today that Marshall has now a player drafted in the MLS SuperDraft, and that is Paulo Pita, outstanding goalkeeper for the Thundering Herd. He was selected 24th, and he is going to be playing for LAFC. I don't know enough about LAFC or MLS, so Reeves Kirtner, who you hear a lot during programs such as Inside Herd Athletics, he's the voice of the fan and also probably the only guy with the common sense on that show. I think that's fair to say, Reeves.
I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Yeah, you're the guy keeping the glue. You're the glue keeping that show together.
That is a fun show, and you know, we're going to talk about soccer for a quick minute. And last year on the Mike Hamrick show, Inside Her Athletics, I think two of the my favorite shows were when we chatted soccer with Chris Grassi. That was pretty cool. And what a year! And this kind of adds to the awesome year that Marshall soccer had. Their players are now getting rewarded for it.
And it's great for recruiting as well because now he can go out and say, look, here's my guy. I got him. You drafted. He played here. You can get drafted if you have the ambition to go further after college. Come to Marshall. We've got everything you need.
You're absolutely right. And there's only 4 rounds in the MLS Super Draft. And it's kind of a weird draft. A lot of teams, Paul, they'll skip their picks and they'll save them for later. It's like if you don't take your first round pick, your second, third, or fourth round pick, you can use it for like another draft throughout the year. It's kind of weird. And a lot of teams ignore the draft because it's such an international market and they don't want the college kids. They'd rather go after the kids from Europe and South America, Central America. But yeah, it really is a big deal. Not only did he get drafted first round, and he got picked up by a really, really good club. LAFC were the regular season champions last year in the MLS. They made it to the conference finals, and they're in the North American version of the Champions League. You hear about the Champions League a lot over in Europe. There is a version in America, and LAFC is in that too. So he's with a really, really good team. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing in terms of making the roster and getting a spot on the team. But obviously they like something they saw if they're going to take him in the first round.
Obviously, no pressure on him. He can develop.
Yeah.
That's a great thing for him also.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize this too. MLS has a farm system, kind of like the NBA G League or minor league baseball. A lot of teams will either have a 2 team. You'll have like the New York Red Bulls 2. LAFC, they'll have a deal, like a partnership with one of the minor league teams. And I just looked it up. LAFC, their deal is with Orange County SC. So good chance. I don't know this, but I would not be surprised if he started the year off loaned out to like a USL team or one of those minor league teams to develop all that kind of stuff. Usually teams keep about 2 goalkeepers on roster at a time. So I see him starting somewhere down there.
And that's completely different than the NBA. Say Zion Williams. You're not going to loan him out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're not going to put a Zion down on the NBA G League. You're going to keep them under your grasp. So yeah, it really is. It really is exciting. I had no idea where he get drafted. I thought he would. I really did. Out of the 4 rounds, did not know he'd go number 1. But that is awesome. So
you mentioned it earlier, and that's why I brought you in here because you've been following this a lot more. I mean, you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a legitimate soccer fan. You're at all the Marshall games. You go to Cincinnati, and you've seen how that city is transformed into a soccer town. And,
It is.
And that's sort of happening on a smaller basis here in Huntington. I mean, there's always been good high school, junior high, youth soccer here, but it's really taken off with Marshall and the program that's being built with the men's team and now hopefully the women's team.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing how many states had all of their Division I programs in the NCAA tournament this year. Marshall and West Virginia. How many had more than one make the NCAA tournament this year? And you look at all the soccer tournaments that happen here in Barbersville and Charleston. I was talking to someone today. There's works of literally a tri-state soccer tournament, which would include Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia, using those fields, like an even bigger type tournament. But yeah, there's no doubt about it. And if you've never been to Cincinnati, I put on my Facebook just a minute ago. And Paul, if you can find it, share it on the ESPN page. But LAFC did a really good video, like a little tribute for, hey, welcome Paulo to our club. But I said, hey, my second favorite MLS club now is obviously LAFC, and August 2nd they'll be in Cincinnati. But if you've never been to an FC Cincinnati game or match, it is a great time. They're averaging 26,000 fans a game. And that's bad weather. I mean, we went to some matches last March. I'll never forget one game. It started out 45 degrees in rain and dropped down to about 35 degrees in rain. There was not 26,000 people in the stands for that one, but I guarantee you there's probably 10,000 that was there start to finish for that one. So yeah, there's no question that the sport is growing.
Reeves Kirtner is with us, and of course, he will be back on the radio on a regular basis, at least on this station, when we resume next season with Inside Herd Athletics with Marshall University Athletic Director Mike Hamrick. He goes by the voice of the fan, but really he's sort of the guy in the middle here. Because you've got your father,
yep,
who's the host.
Yeah.
He's one extreme. You've got Mike Hamrick.
Yes.
He's the other extreme, so you're right there in the middle.
Yeah, that's right. Keeping us on track sometimes. Keeping them both on track. So, and also too, I want to say this is not Marshall's first MLS players. I don't know how many have been drafted, but I want to say Marshall has had maybe three, or this might be Marshall's third or fourth player to make it to the MLS. First in a long time, but they did have some players back in like 2003, 2004 that were drafted into the MLS. Again, even the MLS draft has changed. Used to be like 6-7 rounds, and now it's only 3 or 4. But they have had some players before, but definitely this is their first rounder to get drafted.
Yeah, notice it's really streamlined too. There's not that much pomp and circumstance with the actual draft itself. It's more now of a social media thing.
It's kind of like the Major League Baseball draft.
Yeah,
right. I mean, nobody.
I think it's fair.
Does anybody sit down and go, "Hey, we got to watch the Major League Baseball draft," and like the NBA or like the like the football draft or the NFL draft, which is turned into like a 5-day.
It's a party.
It's a main of closing down the streets in Nashville and stuff like that. Yeah, and like I said, it's not that big of a deal in the MLS. I don't want to downplay Paulo's part. It's a big deal to college players, but again, soccer is such an international market. Your best teams aren't relying on American soccer. Kids that went to American colleges. It is an international market. They're getting kids from Mexico and Europe, Brazil, South America, and so forth. So it's not like it's a big deal. The FC Cincinnati. Last year, they went all in on the draft because they're an expansion team. They needed as much help as they can get, so they were making trades to get other teams' draft picks. They got a bunch of draft picks from like Philadelphia. I remember Philadelphia's like, "Hey, that's not the route that we want to go. We want to go to the international market." But FCC's like, "Hey, we need again as much help as we can." So it's not like the Major League Baseball, or I'm sorry, the NFL draft or like NBA. It's more like like Major League Baseball.
But is it growing and making college soccer more viable?
I think so. We talked about that when we had Coach Grassi on Inside Herd Athletics. I've been one to say that I think the MLS is hurting the U.S. national team. He disagreed, and so I guess he's right. He knows more about it than I do. But I said that when U.S. the national team, when it was the best that it ever was. 2012, 2008, we had some good teams in the World Cup back then. All of our best players, they were playing over in Europe. You had your Landon Donovans, and you had your Clint Dempseys and Josie Altidore. All those guys were playing for European clubs. They were playing against the best players in the world. because the MLS back then, 2004, 2008, again, it wasn't that big. It wasn't, it costs $350 million now just to get a expansion fee. I mean, that's how much these clubs are becoming, how valuable they're becoming. Now that the U.S., the MLS can afford to pay those big multi-million-dollar salaries. So Clint Dempsey, he's now retired. Josie Altidore still plays. He plays in Toronto. But they were like, hey, do I want to play in every match? Do I want to get good quality playing time, make a couple $1,000,000 and live at home? Or do I want to be not a star over in Germany or over in England and still make some good money? Well, you know what? Hey, usually home's going to be the tiebreaker on that. So again, as the MLS those salaries have grown, some of our best players are now playing in America, not getting that international competition like they were. So, but there's no doubt that the MLS now, their salaries are slowly but surely increasing every year, and it is becoming more and more attractive, to those kids. So it's kind of like Coach Grassi, his point was like, hey, you gotta take a step back sometimes to take a step forward on the international team. And he was saying, I think the MLS, as it is getting better, it is. There's no question that the MLS is getting better. He said that will make the U.S. national team better in the long run and make U.S. soccer better in the long run.
Women's soccer, a lot better in the international game. Domestically, though, yeah. I know there's a push for that. Just going to pick your brain real quick while we've got that. Yeah, got you here for a second. How is that going? How's the grand experiment of actually showing and exposing people more to the professional side of women's soccer? I love the game. I love the Women's World Cup. I love watching it. I wish our men's team was more competitive. I've got a 12-year-old daughter, almost 13, and she has an Alex Morgan jersey. She plays soccer. She's on a club here in Huntington. And I don't know if she'd be playing soccer if it wasn't for that U.S. national team, if it wasn't for the Alex Morgans of the world. But she idolizes her. I took Carly, my 12-year-old, to go see the men's national team this summer in Cincinnati, and the whole time she was trash talking them because of how well the women. Oh my gosh, the men are horrible. I'm well, calm down, But it's. The girls definitely have an awesome role models here in this country, and there's no doubt about it that America has the best female soccer players in the world, and yeah, definitely helping out soccer growth and all that kind of stuff. So, and I'm ready for Marshall women's soccer to step it up. They just hired a new coach from Charlotte, and I think they can win here. We've got the facilities for it. I mean, Coach Grassi has proved, hey. We asked him, would you be at Marshall if we didn't have that soccer field? I mean, he politely said, probably not. I mean, it's, again, I've got a facility that I can, bring players into. And I think women's soccer at Marshall will step it up as well. Soccer coach spells his name wrong. It's Swann with one N. Michael Swann.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That's like a name slipped my mind. Came from Charlotte, though, right?
Yeah, he did. And he's already started to recruit some local talent as well.
Yeah.
He was eyeing at Charlotte. So he's hoping to build a program there. And he's buds and friends with Coach Grassi already. I mean, they knew each other.
Sure, of course, they all knew each other.
Yeah, I think they root for the same team overseas.
Okay,
I think
Newcastle. I think
something like that.
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. I'll have to double check with him on that. But
when I saw we hired a coach from Charlotte, from Marshall, I was like, oh, because we don't like Charlotte men's soccer.
Right.
So we beat in the championship game, and I think there were some altercations after the game. I was like, oh, and then I was like, okay, women's. I was like, who are we hiring here?
Yeah, no, he's completely on board.
Yeah,
so and plus he's got that he's got that soccer voice.
Okay,
he sounds just like Chris Grassi.
So he's from England as well.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we like.
Yeah, right. That's where the good coaches are from.
That's right.
Yeah, until you can develop them here.
Sure.
You got to import.
Again, it's an international game. It doesn't. There are good players in America, good coaches in America, England, Africa, South America, everything. We had on the international thing when we had Coach Grassi on this past fall. He talked about it being international, and he would do recruiting. Because I asked him, I said, how do you find a kid from Africa? How do you find a kid from South America? And literally, he gets off the plane in Ghana, and I said, do you have a kid you want to watch? Like, you're coming to find, you want to watch this kid, but you might find 2 or 3 you like? And he said, no, we know there's good players in this part of the world. We'll get off the plane. We hope our host is there. We hope our translator is there. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. They take us to the pitches, to the fields, and we just start scouting talent there. It's kind of like a blind recruiting trip. And then he starts doing a speech. Hey, you can get an American education. You can still play soccer. And you can still go pro. And if you don't go pro, you're going to have a degree from a premier Division I school and from a premier college and university. That's his pitch. I was like, works for me.
Reeves Kirtner with us. FC Cincinnati, his first team. LAFC, now his second team.
That's right. Absolutely.
Okay, I guess I got to push the Seattle Sounders to third. That was my.
That's a good club as well.
That was my first team until FC Cincinnati.
It's funny. So I went to the LAFC Facebook page to see what their fans were posting about after Paulo got drafted, and one of the first comments said, "Yeah, looks good, but can he stop Seattle? Can he stop Seattle?" Is what the comment said. So. Yeah, absolutely.
Reeves Kirtner, of course, you can hear his voice this fall during football and maybe basketball season too, depending on what time it is, everything with Inside Herd Athletics. And, of course, you remember him years and years ago as you were the guy directing all the entertainment at halftime.
That's right.
Marshall basketball.
That 3-ring circus that it was.
It was fun. It was fun. Come on.
Car races, beanbag, animal, the musical chairs and everything.
I want him to call my name so I can race the RC. Come on. Like, call me. I'm free. We'll talk more about soccer later on. We got Bill Cornwell coming in later on, so he's going to want to chime in on this as well.
He'll be pumped. You should have him on first. He knows more than I do.
Well, he wasn't coming in until later.
I got it.
But I think he's like FC Cincinnati first, and then he's like Orlando second.
Orlando second, yeah.
Okay.
And Bill's been to a match too. We went to the same one last year. Went to go see Wayne Rooney and DC United. So he's been there. He's been to a couple matches, actually, I want to say, last year.
Yeah, he's pretty good for the road trip.
Really did.
So we'll get him on a little bit later on. We'll also talk basketball because that's kind of a thing today.
Yeah.
We got Marshall, Middle Tennessee, both at the Cam Henderson Center, 6 for the women.
Yep.
And 7:30's tip time for the men, and we'll have all that for you right here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Any other Herd players potentially down the line?
I think Milo can.
Okay.
Milo, true freshman last year, Conference USA Player of the Year as freshman of the year and Player of the Year. It's amazing. I don't see why. My daughter asked me last night. We were talking about the draft. We were like, talking about will Paulo get drafted, and she goes, "What about Milo?" I said, "I don't see why not. That is a true talent." Too right there. Yeah, I think Milo will eventually. Not this season. No, he's staying. But I think eventually he'll get drafted.
All right, I'm going to add the Super Draft now to my yearly watch list.
And I'll be honest, man. Like Super Draft has not been something like up there in my vocabulary until this year with Paulo.
Now that Marshall players can actually have a legitimate shot at it, I got to pay attention to it.
That's absolutely right. I promise you, I have never gone to the MLS Twitter page on the day of the MLS Super Draft to hit refresh and see what was going on. I was scrolling through it. Then I went, holy crap, there it is, number 24.
Thankfully, Twitter has given me, because I pulled up the Twitter posts about Paulo.
Yeah.
And relevant people, MLS, okay, follow. LAFC, follow. So, now I'm following more soccer than I ever did before.
There we go. Go Herd.
You've converted me, Reeves Kirtner. You've converted me.
Yeah, it's exciting.
I knew that was your goal when years ago when we met. You were like, I'm converting him.
I'm trying to get on the FC Cincinnati payroll as a regional recruiter for them. So
that's a good job.
Yeah,
you could probably do that. And I know people who have gone that route.
Yeah,
it pays well.
That's what I need.
Reeves Kirtner, you catch him this fall on Herd Insider. I'm sorry.
Inside Herd Athletics.
Inside Herd.
Yeah.
Well, we should have a radio show called Inside Herd Athletics. Herd
Insider Athletics.
We used to.
Yeah.
All right, I'm getting confused. Let's go ahead and take this break, and we'll talk more Marshall basketball later on this hour here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Never miss a moment of The Drive with Paul Swann. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, about 30 minutes from now, we're going to be talking Marshall basketball with you. We have got Marshall, Middle Tennessee coming up. 7:30 is going to be our tip time here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Hopefully here in a few minutes, I'm going to have Bill Cornwell in the studio with me as well as we get set for our pregame coverage. And you can watch these games, of course, on ESPN+, but if you can't follow it that way, you're always welcome to listen to us. We'll have the game for you. And Steve Cotton will be calling his 1,001st game as Chip Walters, the voice of the Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders, called out yesterday. And if you missed that interview, go back to the podcast. It's a pretty good interview. Speak with him also. Speak with Tony Kemper, the head coach of the Marshall women's team. They're in action 6 o'clock tonight. So really, you've got an option here. If you're getting off work, maybe you want to go catch a little bit of the women's game, and then you can listen to the men's game if you've got a portable radio, or you can catch a little bit of the women's game and then get home, catch the men's game, whatever the case may be. If you've got some time, go support the ladies. They're in action tonight, also taking on Middle Tennessee. But yesterday's show, pretty good show. Good interview with Tony, good interview with Chip. You can download that right now. All you have to do is go to our website, wrvc.com, or you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, or wherever you get your podcast is where you'll find our show. All right. We talked a little bit about soccer. Paulo Pita, drafted by MLS's, and I've got to make sure, because there are 2 LA teams. This is LAFC, LA Football Club, or Los Angeles Football Club, different than the LA Galaxy, which I'm a little bit more familiar with than, we've been joking around. Huntington, Marshall started to become a soccer town, and guess what? It's starting to become a soccer town a little bit more, because of the investment made by the university a few years ago in the soccer facilities, and all of a sudden you capture lightning in a bottle, you bring in a coach that can recruit to that facility and take all the groundwork that was laid before him and build upon it. And then you've got a Marshall women's soccer program that's going to try to do the same as you bring in Paul Swann, and he's a pretty good guy to talk to. Yeah, you can go back as well. Find him on our podcast. I don't have the specific episode, but a few weeks ago when we found out the news he was hired, and I had a chance to catch up with him. So you can find all of that on the podcast as well if you want to go back and listen to it. But it's pretty exciting that the fact that we've got Marshall now being represented a little bit more in MLS, and hopefully that's going to be the beginning of things to come. And maybe the women's side as well can start being represented in professional soccer and turn Huntington really into a hotbed for college athletics and soccer. That would be I think that'd be a really cool thing to see. Marshall transform the Olympic sports a lot more into really destinations for student athletes. And, of course, we all want football to be successful, always want football to be successful. You want basketball to be successful as well. But, hey, there's potential there for softball. There's potential there for soccer. There is the potential there for volleyball. I love what Ari Agnes is doing. I love what Coach Smith is doing for softball. Coach Grassi is doing a fantastic job with soccer on the men's side, and hopefully Paul Swann will be doing a fantastic job on the women's side. There is so much potential there for some of the other sports as well, and you don't see the love maybe given to them as much as you see for football. Because, again, I understand it's football. If football is the straw, it's stirring the drink right now, and basketball maybe is the ice. Fair to say? I don't know. But we're a little behind, so we're going to take our next break. We'll come back, and we'll get you closer to tip time here. Marshall taking on Middle Tennessee. We'll have it for you right here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
We're taking Paul Swann everywhere. Download or subscribe to The Drive with Paul Swann on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Coming up at 6 o'clock, we're going to count you down to Marshall and Middle Tennessee. It'll be college basketball today. Before that, you get a sneak preview of... Okay, we're not going to preview that. We got Bill Cornwell. He's in studio. We're going to talk other things.
We don't want to give away the house. Come on.
No. You got to tune in for that.
Yeah.
All right. While you're doing what you're doing here, you talk for a second because I got to try something new that was brought to my desk today. See this in my hand?
Mountain Dew Zero.
Yeah, Mountain Dew Zero Sugar. Mountain Dew Zero Sugar. I have got it before it hits store shelves.
Outstanding.
Yeah, and I posted it on social media, and everybody wants to know what it tastes like. So I'm going to taste it right now. It's been in my fridge all day.
Because people who know you know that you are a major mark for Mountain Dew products.
Yes and no. I've cut down the major intake of this by 10, 12-fold.
Okay.
Seriously, I've cut down. So when I hear that Mountain Dew Zero Sugar is a thing now.
But it does hit the spot at times.
Let's find out. Yeah, well, I mean, you drink something in moderation. Yeah, totally, and that's basically what I've done.
Good man. Good
Yeah,
man.
oh yeah, because this stuff was killing me.
Yeah.
And I don't mean in it hits a spot. It's like it was killing me. All right, here it is. Mountain Dew, 0 sugar, Bill. Let's find out.
Give it to us.
Okay.
What is the verdict?
All right, let's find out.
He's turning up the bottle. He's gonna give it a go, and the verdict.
I think it's good, actually. At first, I was sitting there going, okay, this is just a repackaged diet, but it doesn't have like that diet aftertaste.
Okay.
It's closer to Mountain Dew than it is diet, I think.
Okay.
Good job. I would drink this. I would do this again.
Credit where it's due.
Yeah,
Good job.
Mountain Dew, 0 sugar. And, of course, you remember last year I tweeted and talked about the fact that I had probably gotten a hold of the Coca-Cola orange, vanilla orange flavor before anybody else. I was getting text, Bill. I was in the store. I was shopping. I'm getting phone calls. Hey, where'd you find that Coca-Cola orange vanilla?
Yeah.
I had to go into hiding for a couple of days here. But I cannot get you any of this stuff. This was given to me. This was ahead of time. I have a source. Not going to find this on store shelves until probably next week.
You had a setup.
I did have a setup. Yeah, it's good to know people here. Hey, how excited are you that Paulo Pita making the MLS? He was in the SuperDraft, which I got educated about earlier.
I'm excited about that. You know it.
Reeves Kirtner was in here earlier, and he told me a lot about this that I had not known before. And we're trying to figure out. Last time I heard player was drafted, it was if I'm not correct.
It's been about 10 years ago.
No, wasn't it Daniel Withrow, 2013?
Okay, the last decade.
So
it's not like it's not the first go around. This isn't the first rodeo as far as Marshall getting a player drafted. But yeah, this is exciting. But there are so many good, young, talented players on the team, Paul, that believe me, Paulo Pita is not going to be the first Marshall player drafted in the upcoming years. This is the first of probably several.
Yeah, it was Withrow. He made the roster of the Crew, I believe, or at least he was drafted by the Crew.
Yeah, he was drafted by the Crews. He may have ended up maybe in San Jose with the Earthquakes, but the guy got because they only go a couple of rounds, Paul. It's kind of like the NBA draft. They do not go all day and all night. It's a select group. And
I like it, actually, streamline it, because the NFL has made the NFL draft a major made-for-TV event.
Yes.
They're having block parties. They're shutting down city streets.
I mean, what they did in Nashville last year was unbelievable. And, I mean, it was quite the show. And they did it for 3 days. I mean, they had that street, the main thoroughfare, they're rocking for 3 days with the draft picks. And, I mean, it wasn't like on – round one day, everybody was just going nuts, and then it just died. No, it went solid for 3.
That's pretty cool. I like the NBA, though, what they're doing. It's a little bit more streamlined, and it doesn't take all week.
No.
And you can get it over with, and you're done. And here we are. Here are the people who made NHL rosters or NFL rosters or NBA rosters. I like quickness. But, of course, NFL's more spectacle. NBA seems like more streamlined. NHL, they got to work on that, Bill. They got to work on that. You've sit and watch an NHL draft?
I do.
I have too, because when the Rangers have draft picks, I want to see who they take.
I just enjoy the process because they do it old school in the NHL. It's kind of like the old days when the NFL, where you have at the NHL you have a big table. Every team has a table, and you got the coach and the GM. Sometimes you even have the owner there.
Man, I don't need that.
And then you have all the scouts.
I don't need that.
That are around the table, and they're the ones. Now, of course, they've put their list together earlier. It's not like they're at the last minute. Well, who are we going to pick? No.
I don't need that, though. I mean, because they come up and they take more time to tell me about why they made their pick than just tell me who they picked.
I just wait to make sure that the guy they pick, they have not only they always have the jersey, but they have the name on the back. That's always cool.
Yeah, well, I think they're putting those on before they probably get the pick in, and then
they are. They can go back there and just
here it is.
Put it on there.
That's pretty cool that they can do that.
Yeah.
instead of just having the generic number 1 draft pick jersey.
Yes, that's it.
That's pretty cool. So Marshall Soccer is a thing now, and we've talked a lot more about that than we have.
It's very much a thing.
Yeah. Are you now a LAFC fan? Is that going to?
You know what?
Are you going to jump ship from Orlando?
No, well, no, I don't. I still support Orlando, but I also supportive of our own FC Cincinnati. I actually attended a match against the DC United back in the summer and really enjoyed it, and planning on attending more. But I also would like to go to another Orlando match. I've been for like 5 straight years. I've been to Orlando City matches down, and I love it down there.
Let me ask you: if Orlando's playing LAFC and Pito's in goal, Paulo's in goal here.
I hope Paulo does well, but I'm rooting for Orlando or FC Cincinnati.
You hope he does well, but you're not.
But not that well.
Not that well. Okay.
Yeah, just that day. Other than that, I'm in the Paulo Pita court. And if he goes and really does make the team, some of the local sporting goods stores need to start carrying some LAFC merchandise with his name on the back. Go for it.
There you go. That's a hope. All right, we got to get settled here and get ready for basketball. We've been just having a good time here on this edition of the show. We'll come back and wrap up our show here and then get you set for Marshall basketball taking on Middle Tennessee. We'll talk more about that when we continue. It all begins at 6, but stay tuned. More Drive on the way here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
The Drive with Paul Swann. Marshall Athletic Director Mike Hamrick. He knows.
Paul's the best.
On ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Mike Hamrick's my guy. I was going to say that right now. Mike's my guy. Welcome back to The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Paul Swann, your host for just a few more minutes, and then we've got coming up, top of the hour, we've got college basketball today. That's right. We're going to preview Marshall's matchup with Middle Tennessee. Also take a look at what's happening at Conference USA. And we'll get you set for tip-off coming up tonight. It's going to be a 7:30 tip, 6:30 Central Time. This game being played at Middle Tennessee. So early for them, later for us. Either way, it could have been later, and we've got it for you right here. So, and don't forget, after the game, stay tuned. We'll have college basketball wrap up. We'll recap the game and take a look at what's happening in college basketball, all the games in Conference USA. Several games to tell you about tonight in Conference USA as we're in that part of the schedule now where, for the most part, every schedule is going to be, for the most part, again, there will be an exception here or there, Thursday, Saturday. Louisiana Tech, UTSA, that's going to be underway before Marshall tips FIU, North Texas, Western Kentucky, UAB. That'll be Marshall's next opponent, UAB. Southern Miss at UTEP, Florida Atlantic at Rice. That'll be your weekend. That'll be your Thursday lineup. Your weekend lineup is FIU, Rice, Southern Miss, UTSA, Old Dominion, Charlotte, Florida Atlantic, North Texas, WKU at Middle Tennessee, Louisiana Tech at UTEP. So busy weekend ahead in Conference USA. And it all starts tonight. We'll have it for you right here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. And, of course, that game also can be heard on 93.7 The Dog. And don't forget, if you are going to watch it tonight, if you can't watch it, you can listen to it here. If you can't pull up a video feed and you're going to be out and away from your radio, we've got the audio feed for you. You can go to several places. You can go to our website at WRVC.com. You can stream it there. You can also listen to us on TuneIn. You can stream the game there through our radio station. And, of course, you can download our app. That's at WRVC.com, wherever you need to go. Start at WRVC.com if you want to listen to the game tonight. If you can't watch it, it's going to be on ESPN+. So we'll be watching the Herd game and, of course, listening to the voice of the Herd, Steve Cotton, while that goes on. I love it. I know we've talked about it. I love the ESPN+. I feel like I'm a salesperson for them. I need to actually give them a call and say, look, I've sort of been like an evangelist for ESPN+. Can you guys cut me a subscription deal here? I mean, $4.99. That's pretty expensive, right? No, not expensive at all. It's pretty good though. Great service, and I tell you what, I probably have seen more Herd games on the road now that Conference USA is doing ESPN Plus a little bit more than I have in the past. That's a plus for me as far as doing this job a little bit better and being able to watch it. And I'm sure it's a plus for you because you can pull it up on demand wherever you're at. I mean, that's the cool thing, though, about it. It really is. I mean, if you can't get to your TV at home, you want to keep an eye on it, you can listen to us. Of course, you can watch it on your phone, and you don't miss it. It's a little bit better on Facebook. It's easier to navigate, I think. I mean, you can still navigate it on Facebook on your phone, but it's just easier for me to navigate and just have it right there. So we'll be watching the game, of course, in here in the studio, listening to the Herd through the voice of the Herd, Steve Cotton, and it all begins coming up, tip-off set for 7:30 right here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. I'll give you a couple of quick factoids. For those of you sticking around, I'll give you a couple of quick factoids. Here's one. Again, I'm trying to save all my good material here. Jared West has played more minutes this season than any other player in Conference USA. You didn't know that, did you? Yeah. He's been out there playing more minutes than anybody in Conference USA. So he's the guy you got to keep an eye out for if you're Middle Tennessee. And Aaron Bennett, he's almost averaging 6 rebounds. Just things you're going to find out tonight when we switch over to basketball coverage, and we're going to do that here in just a minute or so. And don't forget, if you missed any part of today's program, you can go back and catch it on our podcast. The feed's going to come up a little bit later for those of you listening live, for those of you listening on the podcast. Hey, you downloaded it, you know you got it. All right, we're going to switch over to basketball coverage for Reeves Kirtner, for Bill Cornwell. I'm Paul Swann. Thanks for listening to today's edition of The Drive. Bill, bring the boy over here, too. Give my bag. I can do it. I can manage it.
That's where
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, your flagship home of the Marshall Thundering Herd and The Drive with Paul Swann, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.